Hi again, everyone. Ken from Whittling Woods, back again for episode 3, but I think I'm going to call this episode 0 because this really should have been probably the first episode I did. This is a introduction, getting started in whittling. And I think it's something that probably maybe I should have done initially before I did the last 2 videos, which were carving the face. These are kind of important things, and many people who are just getting started may have some questions. There's plenty of videos out there on getting started in whittling, I know, so I'm sure many of you have already watched a number of them. I'm going to do my own and hopefully maybe add something that maybe hasn't been touched in some of the other videos, although I'm sure there's going to be some overlap. Okay, first let's start with knives. Big question. Which type of knife should I get? What should I buy? It's basically anything, any type of wood carving knife will be fine. The name brands are good. There's Flex Cut, are probably pretty common for a lot of people. They have plenty of those out there. This is a Mora knife, Swedish knife. It's a decent knife. It cuts really well, and I like it. I use it often, and it's made in Sweden. It's comes with this little case you can put it in, a little oversized for the knife, but so be it. This is, you've seen if you watched any of my videos, this is a North Bay Forge knife, and I use these pretty much extensively. This is probably my go-to knife for carving. North Bay Forge, great knives. They come super sharp. They're easy to maintain. They're great. They're sturdy knives. I've never had a problem with the knife, and I, kind of beat the heck out of them. I've never had a problem with them chipping or breaking. They're really good knives. I can't recommend them highly enough. There you go. This, if you watch some of my older videos, you see the old Stanley 199. I've done a number of carvings with this knife as well. I have a blade. It's a Lennox, I believe is the name. It allows you to extend out a little further. There's 4, you can see the notches here. There's 4 of these notches. So it allows you to secure it in 2 notches and extend the blade out a little bit further. Regardless of the blade you use, whether you're using the standard Stanley blade or some other blade like I am here, Lennox, you're gonna have to get it ready to go. It doesn't come particularly ready to go as far as wood carving. You can chop away at wood, but it's not going to be a good wood carving knife until you address the blade itself, and we'll cover that real quickly coming up. The other thing is a good old pocket knife. This is one I've done a carving with this knife, I believe, a video. Maybe I'll have to link for it somewhere, I don't know, up here, wherever they go. And it's pretty straightforward. But again, these are the type of knife that you're going to, you're going to need to do some type of work to get them ready to go. They're definitely not ready to carve with as they come. You're going to have to put them on a stone and get them ready to go. But it's a decent little knife. I have other ones, other type of whittling knives, or excuse me, pocket knives. You can see I bought a few of them over the years, either just different types. This is a decent one. It's a buck knife. The blades are a little large, but they can work too. None of these blades lock, so keep that in mind when you're using these knives. This is an old timer. If you're not careful and you're pushing in the wrong direction, the blade could come and snap and cut your finger. So keep that in mind when you're using a pocket knife. Great knives because you can close them up, stick them in your pocket, and do it on the go type of thing. They're fun knives to use. I enjoy pocket knives, and I would encourage anybody who's into wood carving to at least buy one. Play around with it. You can buy them really cheap nowadays. They're made overseas, and they come pretty cheap. There's certain types of certain ones are better than others, but for the most part, for probably $10 to $15, you can buy a decent knife and play around with it. And if you ruin it, well, you're out 10 or 15 bucks, but so be it. That's another way to approach it. The key, though, again, with a lot of knives, except for, knives like the North Bay Forge and even the Mora knife or other knives. Here's a Here's a healthy knife I own. I don't really use it that often. It's a great knife. They're really good basswood carving knives. I bought this a number of years ago. I have a couple of them. I don't use them all that much, although they are really good knives, and it's something to keep in mind. Other knives, let's see, what do I have here? I think this is a Shipley knife. I've kind of modified it a little bit, the handle, and I think they go by another name now, but Mike Shipley, I bought it years ago. Great knives, absolutely phenomenal knives. These are great whittling knives, and I can't recommend them highly enough as well. I would say that this knife and the North Bay Forge knives are probably some of the best knives I've used. So that's kind of covers the knife portion. You can find them all over the place. There's plenty of wood carving, whittling knives out there. Buy one that's that you see a lot of other wood carvers use. And if you're into this hobby, you're going to buy a few knives. I have a bucket full of them. Over the years, I've accumulated a number of them. So you're gonna get it. The key thing, though, again, is going to be getting your knife ready to go, or repairing a knife if it's damaged. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about quickly what you're going to need to sharpen and keep a knife sharp. So that's what I currently use, are basically three things. Number one is a diamond stone. I bought this online. I think you can pick them up at some of the places that sell stuff online. I'm not gonna go into that. This is 600 grit, although I think over the years I've probably worn it down. It's probably no longer 600 grit. It's definitely not as rough as it goes. And for those of you who don't know, 600, the lower you go, the rougher it is. The other side is 1200. It's good. I'll stick a knife on the 600 side initially, especially a knife that I need to hone up. If I'm using a new blade on here, I might run it across the 600 a few times to take the bevel down, and then throw it on the 1200 side for a while as well, and get it. There's plenty of videos out there on sharpening and how to sharpen a knife and getting that wire edge on the end of your knife. This isn't a video that I'm doing that's going to talk about sharpening a knife. This is just basically how to get started and some of the stuff you're going to have to consider when you're buying it. I don't believe this little kit here that I bought. I apologize. I don't know where I purchased it. Maybe I bought it at the big box store. Maybe I bought it online. I don't know. It's not bad though. It was relatively inexpensive. It's a diamond stone, and it works pretty decent with knives. I stick a little oil on here when I'm doing it. I don't like using wood or anything like that. I just get a little oil. You can use a 3-in-1 oil, or you can use even something like I've actually used even walnut oil on there, and it actually works. It keeps it gets the particles that you're shaving off, keeps it away from the surface of the knife, and you can kind of go for a little while and then wipe it clean when you're done. Oils, some type of oil is the way to go when you're using some type of stone like this. You don't really want to use water. I don't think water and steel go together all that well. The other things that I use after I'm done with this, I go to a ceramic stone. These three are Spyderco, I believe is the name of the company. There's a medium. There's a fine. And there's an ultra fine. I'll just open up the ultra fine. That's basically all it is. This is basically a ceramic stone. I use the same thing. I use a little oil on here, and I run the blade back and forth. You get the bevel down, and you just run it back and forth on here. You go from the medium to the ultra fine after you're done with the diamond stone. You go back and forth on this, and again, you're gonna get a little wire edge on the end of your knife. And for those of you who are not familiar with the term of the wire edge, again, there's plenty of videos. This isn't a video about knife sharpening, but there's plenty of videos out there that will show you how to do that. This is basically just showing you some of the components you're going to need. You don't really need this. You can actually do away. These are not. I remember these being fairly expensive. I must have been in a spending mood when I purchased these. Because I kind of remember them not being overly cheap, but I was sharpening gouges with these at the time, and it seemed like the way to go. Expensive gouges, expensive stones seem to kind of make sense, but you don't have to do this. You can also go with this kind of stuff. Wet dry sandpaper. You can, oh, this one's empty. This is basically, I think these are 2,000 grit, these two. And you'll find these in any of the big box stores. You can cut strips of this out and use the same thing. A little water, a little oil, I guess you could use on these, and go at it. I would buy a few grits, 1,200, 2,000 grit, and these work really, really well. They're cheap, they're easy, they're readily available. There's plenty of videos online about sharpening knives with wet dry sandpaper. It's actually a really good, effective way to go. And if you really have a bad edge on a knife, sometimes putting it on even a much coarser grit, a lower number paper, just to get the shape that you want, is definitely something to consider. They're replaceable. They're easy. You don't feel you're not spending a fortune like you are on the ceramic stones. It's probably a good way. If you're a beginner, I would recommend you go with the wet dry sandpaper. It's definitely cheap and effective, and it'll teach you how to sharpen a knife. But if you buy a decent wood carving knife, you're probably not going to have to worry too much about sharpening. What you are going to have to do is strop, and I do have a video on stropping. To keep a knife sharp, the key is to strop, and you're going to put compound on hard leather. You're going to find some, I used a piece of maple. I glued a couple pieces of hard leather to the maple, and I fill it with compound. I use a yellow or orange compound on one side, and I use the green compound on the other. And if you buy a good knife, if you buy a Shipley knife, or you buy a North Bay Forge knife, and I believe even the Mora knives, you're not going to have to sharpen them. You're just going to have to keep them sharp, and that's going to be the key. So you get yourself, they even sell pre-made strops. You don't have to make your own. But if you have leather laying around, or if you just like making stuff, then go, and you have spare, we all have spare wood laying around. I had a spare piece of maple. I glued pieces of leather to it, and I use these all the time. This is the thing you will use 99% of the time to keep your knife sharp. Once you get it sharp, you won't use this stuff, you'll use this. And unless you damage it, you probably may never have to go back to this. You'll just use a strop. And stropping's not that hard. It's just something you do. You before you carve, you pass your knife on there, 20, 40 passes on each side. And then maybe 15 minutes into your carving or so, do it again. And keep them sharp, keep them good. They'll always cut and perform, and you'll never have to really worry about it. It pays to learn how to sharpen a knife, because there's going to be times when you damage it, and you're going to want to know how to do it. But for a beginner, if you have a decent wood carving knife and a leather strop, you're going to be good to go. You're not going to have to get into the sharpening. You can pick that up at a later time. It's not something you need to do right away. You can buy a good knife and a strop and start wood carving. So that covers basically the knives, keeping them sharp. The other issue, and unfortunately, really, my videos, you never see me wearing gloves. If you're a beginner, this is an example of a glove. It protects your hand. These are not puncture resistant. If you happen to go through it this way, you're going to stab yourself. But if you happen to slice, it will protect you. These gloves are designed to protect you from getting those type of slicing cuts that can be a mess. They take a long time to heal. I've cut myself many times in the past. And you just want to find one that fits. They're available online, and they're really good to use. This one has a little grip, so it makes it easier to hold on to your carving. You wear it on basically whatever your non-knife hand is. If you're a right-hander carver like I am, you're going to wear it on your left hand. Some people wear it on both, so that's fine too. If it comes with a grip, maybe it allows you to hold on to your knife even a little bit better. The other thing you might want to consider using is a thumb guard. This is great if you're carving and you're doing paring cuts. You know, it'll protect your thumb from if it slips, if the knife slips, getting caught. You should basically learn how to carve where your hands are always out of the way. But sometimes we rush and we're not paying attention and we accidentally cut ourselves. So good protection for your hands is essential if you're getting started in this hobby. These are relatively, again, not too expensive to buy. If you can go online and find them, and keep yourself safe, and you'll use less band-aids, and maybe avoid having to go to get stitches in your hand or whatever may happen. So that's something. The next topic that everyone talks about is wood. Most people, your go-to wood is right here. This is a piece of basswood. Everyone who's carving figures like these little fellas here, you're going to carve them in a piece of basswood. The paint's great. The grain's not very dominant, and it's easy to carve. It's available in a lot of places. So you can go at it. You can cut sizes that you want. Maybe buy them in slightly larger pieces and then cut them down. It's cheaper to buy it that way. If you buy larger pieces, then cut what you need, assuming you have a bandsaw or a scroll saw or some other type of saw to cut them. And if you don't, then maybe you want to buy like 1x1s or 2x2s or something like that, depending on the size of carving you want to do. The go-to wood. Everybody who whittles and wants to carve little figures is going to be using basswood, especially if you want to paint them. Other wood, if you just want to play around and you want to figure out, do I even like whittling? Do I even like wood carving? Go out to the big box store, buy yourself a piece of pine, spruce. I'm not really sure what technically what this is really called. I think they sell it as pine. It's a really light. Maybe it's not available in all stores. Some of it's better than others for carving. Again, I think I've even have a few videos on carving with a piece of pine like this. It's a good wood to just practice on, to get familiar with the whole concept of using a knife. It's something to consider. Then you can move up to pieces of butternut. This is a piece of butternut. It's a great wood. It's a beautiful wood once it's carved and stained, or excuse me, oiled. You don't want to paint it. The grain is actually quite nice. It's a really pretty wood, and if you're doing figure carving, it might be overkill because you really don't want to paint it. I've done a couple figures with butternut, but I don't paint them. I just oil them up, and personally I like it. I think it looks great. There's other types of wood that you can use. You can always find pieces. This is an old piece of shelf support. It was mounted to a wall, and I guess I was going to do a little bird on there at one time. It's something you can do. You can find pieces of scrap wood laying around the house. That's actually good to do, good to use. This is a piece of walnut. Walnut's not a bad carving wood. A little rough, a little harder to do. I would recommend you use a pretty decent knife. The North Bay Forge knives I use are good on any type of wood. I would go to. I would not hesitate to use those knives on any type of wood like that. There's other types. I believe this is a piece of birch. This is a plant stake. It was originally something that was used to stake up plants in a garden, tomato plants or something. I have no idea what kind of wood it is, but it's actually carves pretty nice, and it's pretty interesting wood, and it's really cheap. And you can kind of make your own plant stakes. You can carve a little figure in there and do that. So some ideas of types of wood. But I think if you're a beginner, stick with the basswood or the pine type of thing. It's probably going to be your go-to. With that in mind, the next topic would be the type of cuts you're going to have to consider. I'm going to demonstrate real quickly the type of cuts. This is again a piece of basswood. Actually, yeah, I'll use the basswood. This is basically you're looking at just maybe 5 types of cuts to consider. The first one's going to be a push cut, where you're holding the knife in your hand, like you would grip any type of any type of knife, and you're basically just gonna push either along the spine of the knife over here, or against your own finger, or the base somewhere on the knife, and you're just going to basically push it through. Kind of the key when you're doing these is you don't want to push straight through like this. You kind of want to push where your knife's sliding through the wood, because it's doing not only a cut, but it's a slice. It's a more efficient way to do it. The knife works better, and it's something you want to do. It is the primary type of cut. You'll see most wood carvers do this type of push cut. The other type of cut is a stop cut, where you're basically going to make a cut into the wood. You're going to press down into the wood and then cut up to it. So you're basically telling yourself where you want to go to. So you're going to set that. You're going to cut a piece into the wood, or cut a slice into the wood, and just really basically cut right up to it. It kind of, oddly enough, stops your knife from going any further. It is, again, between the push cut and the stop cut, probably the two most common types of cuts you're gonna make when you're wood carving. Practice those. Just play around. Just do this kind of stuff. Get familiar with it. They're really simple. It's not rocket science. It's actually very easy. The other cut is the paring cut, where basically, if you've ever cleaned off some type of piece of fruit or an apple or whatever, it's the same kind of concept, where your knife is secured below where the knife is going. Your thumb over here is below that, and you're basically just closing the gap between your thumb and where the knife is, and you're just pulling it. That's all you're doing. It's a paring cut. So again, it's fairly common. Not as common if you can use the push cut. That's going to be more it's easier to do. The other type of cut is basically a line cut, where you're going to, for one reason or another, you're going to need to make some type of cut in the wood that's a line, as if you were maybe using a gouge or some type of you need to make a line in the wood. So you're basically going to go through the wood like that. You're going to just make a cut into the wood, turn it over, and then basically start at the beginning and just go back over that. And you can see you basically take a little cut out of the wood. You make a little, it might be used for a variety of reasons, maybe wrinkles in clothes, defining the boundaries between two planes in a piece of wood. It's not uncommon to use that in carvings as well. Good to practice. You can go at it all over the place with that kind of stuff. The other type of cut is basically a chip cut, where you're basically putting your knife in the wood. You're just pressing the knife in, turning it. Same thing, going in on that side, forming a little triangle, and then basically doing a little push cut to get to the bottom of that. And you're just taking out a little triangle of wood. Sometimes you use this for eyes, ears in a figure, for a whole lot of type of things. There's a whole chip carving style you can do that's very detailed, and people create some phenomenal, beautiful pieces of wood carvings with just doing chip carving. It's pretty cool. There's special knives designed specifically for chip carving, but that's essentially that. And then basically that's it. We've essentially covered all you're going to really need to do. This ran quite a bit longer than I anticipated, but that's it. That's going to get you started. Those are the things. You're then, I would recommend, if you're into figure carving. I've done plenty of videos on figure carving. Here's a really simple little wizard guy. I have a video of him. He's really easy to do. You're not worrying about a mouth. It's just a little mustache and a beard. It'll get you on learning push cuts. The line cuts, paring cuts, you know, even chip cuts here and there, maybe where we're using the eyes or at least in the mouth. It's a good little figure to work with. It's simple to do. You really can't mess it up. I do have a video like that. If you're not so much into figure carving, you want to do something more functional. Here, I talked about a plant stick. This is kind of like a weird wizard guy, where you're basically just carving a little figure, a little head into a long plant stake, into a long piece of wood that you're going to, you know, set maybe in a garden plant. They'll kind of hold it up. It's out of camera view, but you know, you can imagine you can stake up your plants, and they're kind of decorative. We use them, you know, in different plants around the house. They're kind of fun and whimsical to use. Something to keep in mind. I believe I did a video, this one here. This was like a 10-minute whittle. It's real simple to do. These are kind of guys that you want to do. You don't have to worry about eyes. You know, again, no mouth. It's simple. It's kind of you know, a hat on the character, and they're fun to do. You know, again, this is a video I did a while ago. It's Stanley the Wizard or whatever it's called, and you know, he was done with the old Stanley knife on a really small piece of, like, maybe 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch piece of I don't know if this might have been pine. Simple to do. They're really easy. There's not a lot of detail you have to worry about. It gets you practicing the types of cuts and all that kind of stuff, and with not a lot of commitment to wood. And all that kind of stuff. And then you get on, you know, if you want to do like, you know, practice something a little more complicated, you can do like a little hand. This is a little hand I did a while back, and it'll get you, you know, in the habit of understanding three-dimensional carving and the dimensions that are involved with that, and it'll help you in terms of getting a better feel for understanding wood carving, and that's it. The only other issue that I haven't talked about are gouges. You know, I use them every so often. This is a flex cut V gouge. You can see it's V-shaped. It'll make basically the same kind of things that those line cuts I was showing you. Essentially the same thing, just a heck of a lot quicker and a heck of a lot easier to do. So if you want to pick yourself up one of these are great. Flex Cut makes a ton of different V gouges and just gouges in general. The other ones I use are Swiss made. This is a little, I think this is a number 11 U-type gouge. Again, a great gouge. It creates a little bit more rounded cut, and these are super sharp. These are really good, great. They're palm style, so you can hold them real effectively, and it's great for texturing hair and other things like that. They're really convenient to have. Not the cheapest type of thing. You're going to pay for at least as much as you would for a knife, for a decent knife, as you would for one of these, and they're probably not used nearly as much, but you know, something to keep in mind. Personally, I would recommend you buy yourself a decent knife, and either some basswood or some pine. And if you don't want to go that route, if you already have a good old Stanley knife, get your stones out, sharpen them up to wood carving sharp, where you can actually, you know, take it. I hope this is sharp. I didn't check it before I started the video, but you know, you want to be able to cut right through the wood and not have any problems with it. So it's key to do that. You probably won't be able to do this with the blade as they come, but once you get them pretty sharp, you can use a Stanley. It's, what are these, like $7 maybe? The blades aren't too expensive. It'll get you in you know, it'll help you understand the idea of whittling, excuse me, of sharpening and getting a knife ready to go. So you can always, if you're not sure you really want to get into the hobby, that's another way to go to do that. You probably see that I've used just old corks that I use to protect the edge of the knife. Actually, to protect the edge of the knife, but to protect, you know, myself from getting cut if I grab them is kind of more the key. So anyway, there you go. This is around 30 minutes, probably a little longer than I should have, but I just wanted to give you a quick little introduction to whittling And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I'm happy to answer any. I'll be back again. Maybe I'm going to do a figure carving where I won't be yabbering on as much. Anyway, again, I appreciate all the support and you know, the likes and the subscriptions and all that kind of fun stuff. Thank you so much, everybody who watches and likes and subscribes and all that kind of stuff. It's really helps. Again, all the best. Happy whittling, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.